Hi, I am Dr. Rumsey, and this is a video lecture about an acronym I call MAPS, M-A-P-S. It's a heuristic that explains how someone can write different kinds of documents in different situations and to different audiences. It's something I use in all kinds of writing classes, from freshman composition all the way up to senior level technical writing and beyond. And so hopefully you'll find this useful as you walk into this class and other writing classes. So as I mentioned before, MAPS is an acronym. It stands for Mode, Audience, Purpose, and Situation. Now, normally I don't love acronyms because I teach technical writing. Students bring in a host of acronyms that mean all kinds of things, and I get tired of them. But this one is so easy and so useful, I keep using it. It's helpful to understand how we approach different genres or different kinds of writing and different writing situations. So it's a simplified way of understanding something called rhetoric. Now, rhetoric, a lot of times people think of it as like what politicians do. Oh, that's just rhetoric, that sort of thing. But rhetoric is essentially the ways in which a writer or speaker informs or persuades or motivates a particular audience in a particular situation. They make different choices in how they write or speak to adapt to a particular audience or to different situations. And that changes the writing itself to accommodate for those things. And so those choices that we make are called rhetoric. So M again stands for mode. Mode is essentially what kind of writing it is. It includes understanding what the conventions are for that kind of writing. Now, if you think about what a convention is, we're not talking like a convention that you have at a convention center where there's like display of, no, that's not what I'm talking about. Instead, what it is just the rules that one goes by, the standards by which we follow. So if someone says, oh, I want you to write X document, you automatically kind of know, oh, it should look like this. So what I say here are the expected attributes that make a particular type of writing identifiable. So you know a letter is a letter because it looks like a letter, right? You get the idea. So here are a couple of examples, just to help you kind of envision what I'm talking about. The first is a business letter. You're going to know it's a business letter because at the top it's going to have a date, it's going to have a salutation line, dear so-and-so, it's going to have paragraphs, a signature line. The contents are often going to address some form of business or information or concerns about a product, questions, that kind of thing. Okay, you know it's a letter because it looks like a letter. Okay, so take another one that you're all familiar with, an academic essay. Typically, it's double-spaced. It's full of fluffy words for a lot of people because they don't necessarily know how to write very well. The contents pertain to whatever academic discipline you're in. Say it's a history class, then you're writing a history essay, right? So that's another one we should all know. Another one, something you do every day, email. It's similar to a formal memorandum or memo that you would write in a business. It's internal correspondence in that it has the to, the from, the date, the subject line up in the top of the cell that you're typing in. But it also kind of runs like a letter in that you use a salutation line and a signature line. The text is typically in sentences. The contents are often business, but they can be personal. And then it's considered a type of correspondence. One thing to keep in mind is if in your class I've assigned a netiquette assignment, email when you're emailing in a professional environment is something else very different than when you're emailing in a personal way or if you're texting someone, and so it's important to know those distinctions. Another example would be a technical proposal, or any kind of proposal really. Technical documents tend to be single-spaced. They're often in paragraphs with headings. They often have graphics or graphical representations like tables. There's information that's pertinent to the idea that you might have, and so on and so forth. And lastly, there's something like a resume. You know it's a resume, again, because it looks like a resume. It's got your name at the top, your contact information. Sometimes people use bullet points. There's headings. There's lists of things for like your education or your work history and that sort of thing. Okay, so the next one is A for audience. Audience refers to whomever it is that you're writing. It can be a single person, it can be a customer or a client, or it can be to a large body of people, like I could be writing to all first-year students at Purdue Fort Wayne. If you know more about your intended audience, you're going to make different decisions about how you write based on what they need. So it's really important to really think about your audience ahead of time. So based on the modes that we used in the previous slide, here are some example audiences. Say you're writing a business letter. Say your potential audience might be a complaining customer. Okay, that's going to change how you write. An academic essay, say you're taking a history class and you're writing it to the professor. That email is going to be to your supervisor at work. A proposal is to an engineering professor or a professional writing professor in a technical writing class, that kind of thing. A resume is going to go to a prospective employer. Now you can see with each of these different types of audiences how your writing is going to change and what would be different about it. So what do we know or can we assume about these audiences and how will it change our writing? Okay, so that complaining customer. Let's say this person has a problem with the product or service and that you have to solve it. Issue is they may be grouchy, right? Say you're writing that essay to a professor. He has an advanced degree, he expects thorough writing, and he may or may not be grouchy, right? Your supervisor at work is super busy and needs updates that are efficient and tight, and he's definitely grouchy. A prospective employer is busy and impatient with wordiness. He's probably grouchy. So how do you adapt your writing to address those grouchy people in different ways? How do you address them formally or informally to help them get into your message and read what you're saying more effectively? So someone might need crisp, well-edited, efficient prose. They might want really good organization. They may want diagrams that are easy to interpret. They may need a appealing document design, not sloppiness, right? And so each of these audiences, especially if they're grouchy, is going to need different things, and it's up to you to figure out who your audience is so that you can adapt your writing accordingly. Okay, so the next one, P, stands for purpose. Purpose refers to why you are writing a particular document to a particular audience. What are you hoping to accomplish with this piece of writing? That's the question to ask yourself. So here are those samples again. So say you're writing to a business letter to a complaining, potentially grouchy customer, and you want to solve their issue, pacify their angst, and keep their business. Okay, so that's your purpose. You've got to answer their question, resolve the issue, and hopefully keep them as a customer. That's kind of a big deal. Academic essay, that grouchy history professor. So you have to write enough words to show that you thoroughly researched, I don't know, the Gettysburg, that didn't come out at all. The Gettysburg Address, right? Or some other historical time period or whatever it is that the assignment is. And that you know enough about it that you can point to significant events and actually reference sources and that sort of thing, right? So that's your purpose. Note here that your purpose is not to get an A per se. A lot of students think that your purpose in writing anything is to get an A. No, the purpose is directly tied to what kind of writing it is and to whom you're writing. The A is the result of doing a good job. So here's some more samples. Suppose that email to your grouchy supervisor, you need to clarify what TPS report cover sheet is required, and you're asking to keep your own stapler. And if you don't know that movie reference, it's all right. I'm pretty old. Okay, the next one, a proposal. Say it's to an engineering professor, and you want to persuade her that you have a good idea for a project that's challenging but doable within the semester. You want to convey that you've done the necessary background work and are prepared to get started on the project. Okay, and lastly, a resume. A lot of people think that the purpose of a resume is to get a job. That's not exactly true, actually. A resume to a potential employer is to earn you an interview. Right? The interview is what gets you the job. It's a little trick, but it's true, and you can kind of see why it's your first impression. That piece of writing is your first impression. Your interview becomes your second impression. Okay, last we have S, which stands for situation. Now, situation sometimes means context or like all the details and special circumstances that go into something. Sometimes it pertains to your own situation, like where you are, what you're doing, who you are. And it can also talk about what you need in order to write effectively. Here's some examples. So that business letter to a complaining customer, Say the situation is that this customer has complained before and been mistaken. So you're rolling your eyes because you've emailed this person before and you've said, "Hey, you're mistaken and here's why." Well, this time they have complained and he actually pointed out a real error on your part. So how do you respectfully respond, eat a little crow, and still save face, but be polite and efficient and resolve the issue, right? So that's the situation. You can see how it's a lot dicier than simply the first three items. Like suddenly there's a personal relationship there that you've got to contend with. Take that academic essay. So it's your history professor, may or may not be grouchy. You're writing the entire document the night before it's due because other responsibilities got in the way. Let's face it, you procrastinated and now you're hyped up on Red Bull and Cheetos and you're trying to spit out a 5-page essay in a matter of a few hours. Okay, so that obviously changes how you write. Are you going to write most efficiently and effectively at that time? Probably not. A lot of people think they thrive on that kind of thing. You don't. Good writing never happens in one go in the middle of the night under extreme pressure and anxiety. Okay, maybe the first draft does, but it's always going to be improved by going back. And this is the writing teacher talking. I recognize that, but keep that in mind. Okay. Here's another situation. So that email to your supervisor at work, you've forgotten the TPS report cover sheets in the past, and so you're emailing to ask about them, and you're like, I'm an idiot. I can't believe I have to ask for help again, right? So how do you write it in an apologetic way, but that doesn't like make you look too bad? You get the idea. That proposal to your engineering professor, you're a senior, you've actually landed a job. Okay, so you're working full-time and trying to finish your degree. It's your last class, you are dog tired of school. But you also want to impress the professor, and you know that whatever this proposal is about is a project that could make a big difference in your career. So it kind of changes how you're writing things, doesn't it? Lastly, prospective employer, a resume, you have very little experience. You are brand new, right? But you have a lot of coursework and projects that show your abilities. How can you showcase those things to really highlight what you can do even without experience? You get the idea. Okay, so in conclusion, keep in mind that MAP stands for Mode, Audience, Purpose, Situation. When I say, quote, do the maps for something, what I'm referring to is for you to go through and think about each of those things, MAPS, for a given type of writing. So if I say choose a type of writing that you do and do the maps, then you're just going to walk through all the different things that you could put under there to describe everything you know about that piece of writing. Okay, so that's it for this lecture. If you've got any questions, you can email me at rumsys@pfw.edu. Thanks.